We're back from the past, and yes, you probably weren't expecting this, but we're having a relook at the Sony E3 conference.
Basically,
in all its
stream
messy
shenanigans,
glory.
so sorry, folks.
This time it's more clean.
The Twitch stream was going apeshit.
Glitchy.
We like the overall weird structure of the conference itself threw us off. It was kind of weird, let's just say.
So basically, folks, we're having this little interview to do a bit of a recap of our first impressions. Don't worry, we may repost some of them. But let's just say this will be more of a review look than rather a first impressions look on our end.
Oh, and this starts now.
Here was the first.
This program contains graphic material and subject matters that may not be suitable for all audiences. Yeah.
What was this program?
Which means, of course, it's The Last of Us, I'm guessing.
Nope. It's
the stars.
Come on.
Dreams, basically. Basically, the gimmick was that Sony decided to use what you could create with dreams as intervals. It's not like we were going to actually talk about the game or when it's supposed to come out. No, we're going to have these sporadic intervals just to remind us that the game is still there.
And let me tell you, folks, this did not get the best reception.
Not just that, that singing that the palm tree did, it just reminded me that I kind of want a new Lokoroko instead. Japan Studio, please do something. Sony, do something with Japan Studio, I beg of you.
I think the sad thing is, like, well, Dreams is not even freaking out, and yet they're showing, oh, this can be made with it. Like, okay, I don't even know how to make that kind of stuff in Dreams because you haven't told us enough about it.
I also have a small update, might as well in this case. On Pedro, remember that collaboration that Final Fantasy XIV had with Monster Hunter? Where the Rathalos is basically a raid. Basically, it's happening the other way around. They're dropping a behemoth, a traditional Final Fantasy behemoth in Monster Hunter World as a prey to hunt.
Wow.
So that's nice.
Wouldn't it be funny if they had a behemoth fused with Rathalos?
That would have been amazing, but no, they actually instead used the trailer with the behemoth eating a devil Joe, so there's that. But anyway, that's not what happens in this conference. This conference happens a lot of things.
Yes, folks, this was part of the conference, and I'm just going to say this right now, this went on a bit too long for an interval. Like, again, I had no idea what was going on.
To be fair, I rather enjoy this than a black screen, or like the starry field all over the place.
That's fine and all. I guess my main issue, though, is like, well, again, it's Dreams, but we don't really know that much about the game. Like, it feels a bit like they were teasing us because
that's a shame, especially because Media Molecule has put so much passion into it, so...
Alright.
Yes, we know.
Blah, 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 blah.
Why do people get entranced so much by squeaky voices? I never understand that.
I have no idea.
I'm not sure myself.
We even sound at some point like Inklings, but whatever.
Any ideas, Shiroy and Pedro?
No.
Nope.
Anyway, basically, what you're about to see at first, aside from this, I mean, Sony decided to do things in a weird way.
Yeah.
We know already from the get-go that we would have been focused only on 4 major games. Fine enough, especially considering that last year was kind of a disappointment. Only the major thing that people actually were surprised about was the Shadow of the Colossus remake, basically. But aside from that, so they decided instead to start things this way. And at first I was confused as fuck as well, because instead of a traditional gigantic theater that Sony always used for this, we start in this shack.
It's a church, essentially.
Like, it is Grunko Stanhope, is Mads again.
Good evening, everyone.
And also, yeah, Sean Layden.
No
I
video
have to
game
be
shirts.
perfectly honest, I was fine as long as the announcements were good, but in time I kinda grew out to kinda hate Sean Layden. He has this kind of smug attitude that overstayed his welcome.
I think I can see
Especially
what you
considering
mean.
how Sony has handled its events in past times.
Yeah, if there's one thing it
Not for the
encapsulates.
games
Yeah.
themselves, mind you, because most of the games look still very gorgeous and great to play.
Oh,
It's
ha 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 ha
the
ha! He
presentation,
referenced
and from what
Kingsman.
if either I think it was even Marco or Deji that told us that it's bound to a change of the CEO or something.
It's the big problem. The big problem with this conference is they have great games to show, but the presentation. It's Square Enix 2015 all over again. Like the presentation, the conference itself is terrible. The games themselves are great, but damn, like
Yeah.
what kind of way is this to? I guess it could work better for the audience in attendance because they actually get to move from theater to theater, and it's kind of a good novelty.
About that,
Gives the idea in theory.
about that, Pedro. There are a lot of people tweeting on Twitter actually about how transitioning from the theaters was a pain.
Yeah, that. We're actually gonna get to that. But the point is, in order to create a quote-unquote immersion, we start in this location. Why this one, and why is it handled like this? Because it's for them to present the first of the 4 games that we will decide to focus. The Last of Us Part 2, developed once more by Naughty Dog, and basically having the same key people. I think the only major difference is like one of the writers.
No, actually, Neil Druckmann is still directing and co-writing. The only difference is that, unlike for the first game where he wrote the whole thing himself, he has a co-writer for the second game.
All right then.
So yeah, Sean Layden said basically they're taking us to church.
I will actually remind you that I'm a certified atheist who keeps Fedora.
Okay. Let's just say he was not kidding when he said this conference was gonna blow our minds. It blew them all right.
Yeah, again, if I had to be honest, these past events, Sony of recently, they're just like a spiral down in presentation because the content in itself is decent in the worst case. So but it's not bad. It's just the presentation. Anyway, here's our first thing, music. With can you remind me again?
His goddamn last name is.
Allow me, Gustavo Sanchoa.
No, that's whatever. The point is, here.
Gustavo Enchilada, whatever. He's dressed like Alex Mercer from Prototype.
Okay, now
Gus here is the composer of the first Last of Us, and he's once again composing for the second game. Go ahead, Jobo.
Yeah, allow me to start off by saying the music here was great. This man knows his way around a banjo.
He does.
Unfortunately, this is where the first major critique pops up here. Like, okay, we critique Ubisoft for this. We critiqued Bethesda for this. And sadly, Sony are also guilty of this. We are going to be subject to musical performances without even showing any footage of the game alongside said musical performance.
Again, so far the only one who actually understood how to integrate this properly was Grant Kirkhope, another person who knows how to do the banjo.
I hate to say it, even Just Dance is closer to actually being at least reminiscent of what you do in the game, actually dance. This is just a guy sitting at a banjo. And again, the music itself is good, but this is not the best way to do it at E3. Which, I guess to sum up this, I feel that Sony were definitely marching to the beat of their own drum a bit too much in this E3. I'll go more into that later. But yeah, like I said, the music here is amazing.
I think it's you, Pedro, who mentioned that Last of Us, at least the first one, is the one that basically pioneered the fact that more soothing, tranquil soundtrack can be used effectively into a video game.
Not just that.
We had quite a few video games before that.
Don't remember.
Yeah, there were video games with it before.
Any other examples?
But it was. But I will say that Guz's soundtracks are basically masterclasses on how to make a soundtrack that enhances the emotion of the story, but without being overbearing and it never it manages to be effective. And at the same time,
pretentious guitar in the background,
and at the same time be subtle, you notice it, but at the same time you barely even realize it's there, even though you're still. It's like the music seeps into your subconscious or something.
Yeah, that's the thing, because for the majority of the game there is no music, so when there actually is music, they really know what to do with it.
Especially in that one of the final things, when Ellie and Joel find the giraffe. And they look at all the giraffes, and the music playing there is freaking beautiful.
Now, folks, I hope you enjoyed this musical performance because I'm going to be quite honest, I did not like the second musical performance of this E3 conference.
Oh, that's right.
The,
Well, we'll get
But we'll get to that
The
when we
pipe
get to
thingy?
that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
The whatever the Japanese instrument's called, so I can't remember.
Thank you. And for
I'll
the
be
next
here
one, we
all
shall bring
day,
up
I guess.
Usher.
I think the best way to put it, Teo, is that even though it's not the first one to do it, it's the one that showed the masses and the mainstream that this is an option as well, basically.
And now for the trailer.
Now, okay, if you're not into Last of Us, this trailer was going to do nothing for you. If you were into Last of Us, you might like what you see.
Well, to be fair, that goes with every game. I mean, if you're not into Smash, obviously you're not gonna like the Smash announcements. Like,
And that said, though, there was one
I think
concern
John was
people
referring
raised,
for
but
the
we'll
story,
get to that later.
I guess.
Yeah, that too as well. Oh yeah, that's
This is
one
Ellie,
pound.
I guess, a bit grown up.
Yeah, she's
well,
even got
yeah, the game
freckles and
takes place
everything.
like I don't know how many years exactly, but yeah, it's a few years because
I'll give it 7. Sorry.
probably she's clearly an adult here by this point.
Oh, hello there, teenage Hideo Kojima.
He does look
Seriously.
like him, though.
Yeah.
So yeah,
looks like
Ellie
him,
is
but
once again
younger.
played by Ashley Johnson, which is awesome because I love Ashley Johnson. Don't know who this guy is though.
An
He's a
actor.
big character.
Huh. So the speculation is like, well, the reason things are all peachy here is like, well, this may be a safe haven,
Yeah.
owned by
Yeah.
Joel's brother, perhaps, which would make sense. And who
I
knows?
don't remember specifically how Joel's brother community was, how
was
big and
not
how many
this
structure they had.
It was not
back in the
this
first game.
bustling, but maybe it got better over the years. Like, who knows? Maybe
Possible.
they did find another.
That's also
Uh,
the things we don't have like right now. We don't know how much the cordyceps infection has still spread or not, if it retreated or anything.
Indeed.
Also, can I be honest? This, like, okay, this scene in itself is fine, especially what's coming up. But there's just one thing that kind of ruins it for me. It's that goddamn nose. I don't know if it was a problem
Yeah.
with the motion capture or anything, but I'm sorry, it's really distracting.
Well,
I know,
Well,
right?
Teo, in my line of work, I can tell that I've actually met people that have noses of this particular shape.
No,
It is a
I
thing.
understand. But I mean,
It
for
catches
the
your
sake
eye,
of a
though.
narrative like this, and besides, well, that's another topic, but the way the internet allowed to, take also these out of context was also terrible. But I just want to focus on the fact that this again, the scene itself is fine enough. We already have
The
the
nose is just a little
DLC
silly.
episode Left Behind called.
Which revealed Ellie to be a lesbian.
To establish the identity of Ellie, basically.
Shira in particular is very keen on that DLC.
So basically, even especially if you play the first game, this does not surprise you, and you're perfectly fine with it. If anything, it shows that Ellie has learned how to move on, basically, with her life.
Indeed.
Now, like Jova mentioned, the only thing that's missing is Joel bursting out of the door and saying that no one can touch her.
Yeah.
No one touches. No one touches her.
Ellie
She's
seems
precious.
a bit.
And again, guys, take your bets. How long will it take for this new love interest of Ellie's to die?
I don't know.
Ellie seems a bit out of it at the moment, though.
Well, maybe she's thinking back to something like this.
And transition.
Indeed.
Okay.
Oh, for those who don't
This-
know, Neil Druckmann specifically stated, like, if the first game was about love, this game is about hate. And in order
Yeah.
and the gameplay and the overall atmosphere and tone reflect that, in the sense that the first game was already pretty violent, with blood and all that
This
stuff.
one,
This one is even more violent and dark, from what we can tell.
and
Also
admittedly,
for-
that has kind of caused some bit of worry for some people. And you know what? I don't blame him, Miko. Everyone has a limit point. So I can understand why some might, eventually get a bit squeamish with the heightened bout of violence. Also, let's just pray it doesn't turn into a bout like the Tomb Raider reboot.
I
where it's
have
just
faith-
gruesome
sorry.
for the sake of gruesome. Though I do have faith that it won't be that. But I can understand the worries about it.
Sure, I understand.
My big worry, as is going to be shown in a second, is that the game will be basically too happy to just be content with human enemies and kind of shove the zombies in the background. Kind of like
I
season
hope
2
that is
of
not the
Walking
case.
Dead.
Considering
I
how the
do-
first... Sorry.
I have to be honest, it's not the first time it happened with Naughty Dog. Uncharted 3 kind of removed any trace of mysticism and said, oh no, those are just hallucinations.
Well, I guess, sure. But anyway,
I can
It's kind of removing the magic a bit for me. I mean, but whatever. It's just an example, and that was it. Talking about this game, it's just a preoccupation that they have. I want to see still how it's handled.
It's like one of those. It's personally, I think, like, remember in the first game there were plenty of sections where we were taking care of hunters, and there were sections where we were taking care of zombies. So for all we know, this is just one section where you take care of humans, and there's plenty of zombie ones. It's just we're not seeing them yet. So I think right now it's too early to say something about that.
Also,
that I agree with. Speaking of too early to say something, I do feel like we could have gotten some more info than what we get on some of the games in the C3. I'll specify later, but that is sort of an issue. But yeah.
Also, another thing, while I do believe that this particular section that we're seeing right now is genuine in gameplay, I do believe that that HUD in the corner is just put right there. Like, I don't think it's similar to the first trailer of Deep Down. I think the gameplay is actually happening entirely instead of being a scripted sequence, but I do believe that the HUD was just put there in post-production to make it more authentic.
Now, to give my 2 cents on the matter that Tio and Pedro were discussing, I'm of 2 minds. On the one hand, I am certain that, they won't just go gruesome for the sake of gruesome. I will say this, though. I do notice that, I am a bit worried that, that they may fall into the pit trap of focusing just more on how humanity has become evil and whatnot. When I feel that the first Last of Us already covered that well enough, per se. I feel like, okay. I mean, my
An example that I can give to some similar concept to this, which happened in a Square Enix game, is the second Kane and Lynch game. Basically, the one gimmick that happened in the first Kane and Lynch game was that you had random, basically, hallucination caused by the schizophrenic nature of one of your characters. This was completely removed in the second and make it much more boring as a result, and the official excuse for the developers was, oh no, the character now is taking pills, so he kinda got cured by that.
Also,
I quote Angry John that, okay, but that's not fun.
You can have... sorry, go ahead.
Something I noticed, there are now female mooks here. Well, that aren't zombies.
Well, that makes sense.
True.
But anyway...
Well, yeah.
There really weren't any female mooks in the original game that weren't all zombified.
Weren't there also
even the goriest of violences can be fine if it's delivered for example, let me use an example. The torture scene from the first Last of Us, which is one of my favorite scenes in the game. I find that scene to be utterly brilliantly directed and written. And, like, for example, Joel literally rips the guy's knee. But however, that particular scene works because of the context in the game that the game builds up before that scene, and I'm pretty. And
wait, hold on. Shout out to one of the stupidest mooks I've ever seen. Maybe I should don't bag.
You can maybe I should shoot.
And this, to me, is the point where the gameplay section starts becoming more scriptier, basically. But not so much for the things that can happen, but how coincidentally they start to chaining with each other one by one.
True, yeah, that's a good point. And maybe it's like that for the sake of this.
Like,
it can be like that, Jova, because
what we just witnessed, the potential of a mook pulling you out of your cover. For the sake of a quick time event. Okay, that's actually possible. Actually, something I believe is possible in game like that. But it happened coincidentally just right after you kill one. Without usually in a game with stealth mechanic, it takes like at least 2 seconds, even if the mook is right next to you.
Mercy.
It's like it's just to finish what I was saying. Like, it's one of those things where. I think Neil proved with the first game that he can have really violent scenes as long as he provides a context that actually, where that scene makes sense. So I have faith that he'll be able to do the same here.
I know it's silly to just just straight up assume that it'll be just as contextual, but at the same time, there is that faith that we have because the first game was like that. So
honestly,
also, Jova, about what you were saying, Jova, that can be an option. What you said earlier about this being a demo, that can be a thing because if you go back and watch the gameplay demo of E3 of the first game, it was considerably more scripted than the final game. So this can be a similar thing as well.
The first game wasn't very scripted, from what I remember.
Well, the actual game, sure. We're talking about like the actual E3 demonstration.
What I mean,
No,
Shiro,
I know, but what Pedro's saying is that maybe it won't be like this.
because
in
remember
the
that
actual game.
I'm guessing you guys probably saw that image where there's like the zombies, like whenever Joel attacks a zombie, like there's like multiple camera movements and the zombie is, putting his hand on Joel's face and shit like that. That never actually happens in the game because that was something that they put in for the sake of, I guess, making the presentation, be more cool visually and shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
But later in the full game, it was far more gameplay driven. But go ahead.
But yeah, going back to what Shiroi said, I'm not really assuming anything, Shiroi. However, what you said, though, does raise up a point, though. It's like, well, okay, the fact that we have still some uncertainties about this game, I think, does kind of point to that they could have shown a bit more. Okay, I'm not saying that this ruined the E3, but okay, when Sony mentioned that, they were going to have the big four, I felt like, okay, that means we're going to dedicate quite a bit of time to each one. Not
True,
so much
yeah.
the case equally across. Like, well, I feel
Yeah.
like, well, okay, what we see here is nice, but I think we need to see some more so we at least get a general gist of stuff. Because
If I had to be honest, Vojova, the ultraviolence thing wouldn't even bother me, considering the setting completely justifies it to me. It's
Yeah,
the end
agreed.
of humanity. Anyone can be. I mean, even the first game kind of proves it with the community of cannibals and pedophiles. So.
pretty much, yeah. Again,
Oh,
like,
we're
well,
back here.
One
ahead,
particular
Shiroi.
complaint. Oh, yes. One particular complaint that I did see quite a lot, which I want to address, is the supposed tonal shift. Because we had this beginning.
I'm
The
sorry.
Last of Us date night.
I'm sorry, Shiro. I couldn't quite. Could you repeat that,
Catch
please?
that.
Yes.
I think Shiro's cutting out.
Yeah, sorry, Shiroi.
Sorry, Shiro. Could you repeat that, please? I guess. not.
After
And
that,
this
that's okay,
was
Shiro.
just
Alright,
for-
better?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Go
good.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, sure. A bit of a complaint that I've seen a lot about that scene because of the tonal shift between the party and, all the violence. Again, I think they are related in a way, and I think people need to
The
slow down
extremes of the emotions, I feel.
and wait. I think I think there's a lot more to those scenes that connects them, so I think people just need to wait a little.
Not just that, Shiroi. People keep forgetting that the first Last of Us had cannibalism in it. Like we literally see
I
David.
mentioned that myself. They tried to cannibalize a little girl,
Like so it's not like the first. So those who play the first game, honestly, if you ask me, they should just
Alright,
already
this
be
is
waiting
worth
this. If you
mentioning,
ask me.
basically. Basically,
yeah.
that was just for The Last of Us Part 2. What happens in this very moment of the conference that the entire crowd that was there is being moved to the
Yeah.
main theater. But
And
since
it
it's
was
approximate,
a
takes like a jillion minutes, they decide to take away to this panel, which is actually handled poorly because you can see it floating in the background multiple times. And
yeah.
then Sean Layden spew some more stuff about how good they are and how great PlayStation is.
Oh. It gets even better, guys. If you pay attention, you'll notice that the guys give backward glances like, are we ready yet? It's like, well,
Are we
they
ready
are
yet?
literally being paid to
Sailing
pad this
time.
out for us. Because, okay, this is where the problems with Sony E3 really started to show. Like, Sony could not seem to decide whether or not they actually wanted to commit to going, a completely different route, while also still having a traditional conference. Because the intermissions here suck.
Yeah, they do. And
Not just that,
Sony should
not
just
just
stick
that,
to doing traditional
it's-
conferences. That's what
Yeah,
that's
this
what
is
they're
a
good
waste
at.
of time. If they just stick to the theater and just did everything there, it would have been just nice. I want to remind, like 2 years ago, when they were in the theater, they had this booming orchestra that accompanied all the games that they presented, and how they presented God of War 2018.
Yeah.
It was amazing, even when the gameplay footage was not directly shown. It was just orchestra bombing with the choir and everything.
It also helps
But
that
was
main
actually-
theme. Goddamn,
Actually,
main
that
theme.
was build up and everything.
Yeah,
about
it was
the
build up to the actual reveal. So there, it was more okay that we hadn't seen the footage.
and
yet
it
because that was
transitioned
really a
directly into the
surprise.
footage instead of saying, okay, now I'm done, now here's the footage. So, I don't know what happened here. Again, I seriously don't know what happened here.
Let me put it like this. Ever since E3's 2015 and 2016, it feels like Sony has gotten a bit cocky. Not so much with, their lineups. They're still doing good with their lineups. But with their presentations and what they actually do put out for the long run. Because, like, E3 2017, that was lackluster. PSX was a nightmare. Like, they turned it into a dev blog.
I really hope PlayStation Experience goes back to the traditional format.
And then there's this E3 where, again, look, Sony, you've done good, but again, you're getting too cocky and a bit egotistical here. It's like Tio said with Sean Layden here. He kind of encapsulates how Sony are like that. And it's like, yeah, they still produce good games, but they don't feel as... Okay, they're ringing in to be tone deaf, and let's just say this right now. Yes, they're good now, but if they keep going about this attitude, they run the risk of letting that attitude taint them. And the last thing we need is a return of Sony during the PS3 generation, cocky.
I wouldn't mind the talking, since, each conference has had a lot of talking, but the thing is, it goes on forever in this instance.
And they're not even talking about new stuff about the games. They're just saying, oh, we got this game. Like,
also,
at least...
am I the only one who misses Andrew House?
Me too. I miss him already. At least with PC Gaming E3, when they talked about the games, they were talking about features here. Here, it's literally just, like they're a commentary group, except that's our job.
Not just that, these guys kind of sucks at their job. They're very boring.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, folks, this went on for so freaking long. Oh,
because we need to move. But, oh no, Jova, don't worry. We do have an announcement to do in the meantime.
No, really, do you? I just like seeing this equivalent to the basketball show where
maybe it can be about the medieval remake, the thing that you build up since December and you said, oh, he falls soon, basically.
Oh, but Tio, what also about that Final Fantasy VII remake?
Or that Marvel game that Crystal Dynamics is developing.
To be
That's
fair...
actually a good point, Tio.
Or the next DLC character for Street Fighter V, as it was in the Season Pass, but should be revealed right now.
To be fair,
show some more of Devil May Cry 5 while you're at it.
Pedro?
To be fair, showing Final Fantasy VII Remake, that's more that's something more up to Square than Sony, because I mean they can't. If Square doesn't want to show it right now.
True, but Square paid for a specific trailer, so I honestly think would have been the perfect thing to show at this point instead.
Yeah.
It would have been the perfect thing just to stale and keep the interest of everyone else around this.
Yeah, T, you bring up a good point, because the Medieval remake was announced at the end of last year. The Spyro remake was announced several months later, and we know a lot about, the latter, but not the former.
You don't know anything about the Medieval remake. You don't even know when it's coming out, who's developing it, what's gonna be about it, what's gonna comprise, and not even the engine that they're gonna use.
All you had was the announcement trailer, and you haven't had anything since.
And let me remind you, for all we know from that announcement trailer, they're doing a remake of Resurrection because they're using voice clips from that godforsaken
the one that people like.
Okay, so...
And yes, the new announcement, Call of Duty.
Really? Like I said, Call of Duty...
I know it's a staple for the Sony conferences at this point, but this is just like the middle finger to do it right now like that.
And not even a new Call of Duty, just maps.
For Black Ops 4.
A game that's been out pretty lengthy. Look, like I said, this is something you save for, the middle of your show, not, on the tail ends. Like, seriously, this is the kind of thing that makes people switch off, not stay on. Look.
Unless you're a COD fan.
Look, flashback to E3 2015. When they showed Call of Duty, I had seen so much stuff that hyped me out at Sony's E3 that year that I said, you know what, you've earned it. Sony, you did not yet earn this yet. And again, let's go back to that Last of Us 2 part. Remember how they had to transition a lot of people here? Well, again, like I said, there wasn't much shown of the game, so I have to ask, was it really worth it just to get people in that church so you could see the composer strum a banjo and then see that bit of footage? Because I'm going to be quite honest, I don't think it was. And that's not to say that Last of Us 2 was
Susanna, don't you cry for...
Okay, more talking.
Sure, why not?
Don't worry.
There must be a hell of a lot of people they have to move.
They actually had
That said, though, folks, rest assured there will be plenty of points when we have positive stuff to say.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, but the worst of it was only in the first half an hour. After that,
It's a rock. It's a rock.
I think so as well.
But you feel every single, pebble.
For
of
me,
it.
the moment Ghost of Tsushima comes in, it's all uphill. For me, at least.
I kind of agree.
There were some.
But to be honest, I don't even mind
part
too
it's high.
much the music, interval. I know it's annoying, distracting after considering we had to wait still after this. I don't know. If they did it for The Last of Us 2, might as well do it also for
Oh, but Tio, there was something else to accompany that music performance aside from me finding it lackluster.
this. Yeah, the
We'll
flute
get
looks
to
like
it.
a penis. I know, Jova.
That actually was not what I was thinking of, but okay, the more the merrier.
Bless the internet, Jova. We will find a way
Okay.
to ruin everything for you.
Sony,
Tell me
this
about
is Sony. It's too early for a recap here. Why are you doing a verbal
It's
recap?
time.
Okay, hey Nate, what did we actually see at Sony E3 so far?
Well,
I
we saw
saw
lots of
two girls
content.
kissing. Alright, here we go.
Okay, so no, this was actually the countdown. So make up your mind, Sony. Was Last of Us 2 actually part of the show or not?
Also, a quick montage, for example, Tetris VR, which looks trippy, but it's VR, so...
It's weird as
Okay.
fuck. Tetris
and
effect.
after that
It's
came
made by a guy who
Days Gone
specializes in
Past,
this. Days Gone.
starring
obviously.
not James Franco.
Again, Joe, it still reminds me of basically a good version of Right to Retribution.
Reminder:
which
the
is weird.
people who made Bubsy 3D are making that game.
It needs to be reminded, yes. This is the new game that Dontnod is making, with Bandai Namco as the publisher.
It was fine looking, I guess, but again, it was just a snippet.
Twin Mirror. And something with chibi animals, Discount Animal Crossing, I guess. Oh, it's still VR.
Well, at least the graphics, the graphics for that VR game look good.
Wooblibs. Oh, this is a Reapem game I've seen in action somewhere.
So
Yeah.
you're using a lightsaber to play a
So,
ripping.
what is the use of the motion sensor, though?
The
I don't
PS,
know.
the PlayStation move.
And we're still in the countdown to E3. That's right, folks.
We're counting down for the
We
countdown,
still need
Jova.
people to get into fucking
So,
chairs.
again, Sony, do you not consider Last of Us 2 part of the show? I mean, I know I shouldn't be harping on that much, but it feels really awkward to show Last of Us 2 and then say, oh, now here's the countdown to E3. Again, it's the presentation that
And the
really,
pacing.
really made this show not that good. And you know what? That is kind of one of the worst things you can do for an E3 that otherwise
I
has
hate
great
to say
games.
it, but compared to this, the Microsoft conference knew what to do.
Yeah.
Never mind. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that they've made a complete mockery of themselves as per tradition at this point.
Yeah.
But still. All right. Destiny. Basically, this is the next expansion of Destiny.
yeah.
And yes, we're doing this by killing off the comic relief character that everyone in the audience loved.
Wow, so the one character people like from Destiny 2, a game that not many people even really like, and you kill him.
Brilliant.
According to
And-
Deji, or Marco, is voiced by
Peter
like a
Dinklage.
famous comedian. Yeah, so
So, okay, here's again an issue here. You follow up Call of Duty with Destiny 2, a game that, you know, is kind of common knowledge not many people like.
I'm
Like,
at 146.
all right, we're almost there, Shiroi.
Like, Sony, I get the inkling of, you know, save the best for last and get the worst for first, but again, though, this is not how you should structure something. You usually try and, you know, start up with the big haymakers. Last of Us 2 is a haymaker, yes, but they didn't show enough of it to
All
leave
right,
that much of an
Shiroi,
impact, I
get
feel.
ready, and 3, 2, 1, click.
That's a
And
bit fair, Jova. I mean, they showed a lot of it, and this is the most we've seen of it, referring to Last of Us. So maybe that's all they actually do have to show for now.
that's my point, though, Shiroi.
that's
It's like,
actually
well,
worse
they did not
anyway,
show
because,
enough to warrant
yeah.
have that entire booth and then transitioning people here.
The reason why people were accepting the fact that Sony said, "Oh, we're just going to talk about 4 games mainly," is the sake that, "Oh, okay, we're going to use the spare time to actually have expand more on third party, for example, or stuff like that." And while there is it, it's still very squandered.
Like, I'm
That's
gonna be.
actually a very good point. If it wasn't, I completely forgot that the whole reason that they were in that room in the first place was for that musical performance for The Last of Us. If it wasn't for that and that musical performance had happened in the room that everyone was moved to, I'd still, hold my view on it. But yeah, you're right. They literally made people switch rooms for that only to show such minimal content.
But don't you see, guys? It's to match the footage in the dancing scene.
Okay, folks, this is where the stream went to hell. Okay, this music performance to me is honestly lackluster. It goes on for way too long, and while it sounds good at first, it gets repetitive. But that's not all that happened. No. It wasn't enough that the stream was lackluster. No. Around this time, the Twitch stream started to glitch out, and it wasn't just us. It was for everyone. Sony did not handle the Twitch stream well, and yeah, we have confirmation that was actually Sony's fault, not Twitch's.
Would you know, technical difficulties? Another check.
It is like the Sonic stream.
Basically, here's how it started out. First, the Twitch stream died, and so people migrated to the YouTube one. Then the Twitch stream came back on, but it came back glitchy. Video was glitching out, the audio was clipping in and out. It sounded terrible, and it lasted for pretty much the entirety of this game, Ghost of Tsushima's appearance and onward. But yeah, okay. Honest question. Does this music performance really entice you? Like, I get that it's a different kind.
Well, Jova, there's the thing. I guess I'm biased on my own, but I'm a sucker for traditional Japanese medium and samurai stories. So this kind of thing is kind of my jazz. It's very atmospheric and soothing. I would agree that the camera focusing on this guy chewing on his flute, like it's like it's fucking penis. It's very distracting.
Oh god, you're right.
You could have just instead pan over the beautiful, majestic scenario that Sucker Punch created for this game. Instead, you could have just pan over instead of focusing on this room over and over again. But I don't know, the music is fun enough for me, but again, Joe, between us, it's you who's more navigated into music in general, so...
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I appreciate this kind of music style, but I feel that the notation and the actual song itself that he's doing feels a bit too repetitive and goes on a bit too long and eats up time
Jova,
that we could have seen.
I did get the feeling that this guy at some point decided to go out of script, kinda.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Anyway... Yeah, time finally for Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, from here on out, the conference did improve.
Yeah, we knew only a teaser trailer first at November last year, and it was like a CGI trailer. Now instead is full in-game, with some cutscenes still, but it's full in-game with actual gameplay demonstration, so it's immediately a new thing. Like, for example, this is actually in-game.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's impressive
So,
because
now
Ghost of
the power of the PS4.
Ghost of
now we can have
Tsushima.
to do a proper look at this game without the stream dying on us.
Since Sucker Punch is one of the lesser known of the Sony's first party studios, allow me. Sucker Punch are responsible for the Sly Cooper series back in the PS2 era, and in the PS3 era, and even at the beginning of PS4, Infamous.
Yeah, it was a launch title in Famous Second Son. Then after that, they disappeared for a while. We knew nothing about them.
And now here's what they're at: a love letter to Akira Kurosawa and old samurai movies. Ghost of Tsushima.
Not just that, this is set in a Japanese time period that not a lot of people actually talk about. Very brief historical context. After destroying basically the Chinese Empire, the Mongolian hordes of Genghis Khan actually tried to invade Japan twice. They failed both of the time. This is a tale on how they failed the second time, I think.
Really?
Basically, there is a guy on YouTube who made a video, History of Japan, which is super fast and mostly for comedic effect. He glosses over this particular part by saying that the Mongols tried to invade China and died in a tornado.
I'm really interested in this because in the AAA landscape, this looks like such a breath of fresh air, just in terms of setting. Like, I can't think of another AAA game that takes place in this specific setting. and with a specific tone and
What
style.
was that? Being in Japanese history, but that's the thing. It reminds me a lot of Genji Genji games. There was one for the PS2, and then Genji Days of a Blade for the PS3, which was the infamous one for the giant enemy crab meme. But it was still like a Japanese game. Here's the thing: those were developed by a Japan studio because Japanese things. This is Dribs. Can you remind me if they're American or British Sucker Punch? Jova, can anyone help me on this?
I
Sucker
think they're
Punch.
mixed. Let me check.
Basically, a Western studio developing a
I think they're
full-blown
American.
Japanese theme game. And it, honestly, to me, if it's all like this, it looks on par on the part. It's very...
There you go, Teo. Instead of a Japanese Sony studio, you get a Japanese game made by a Western studio.
That is fine for me.
There you go.
Wonder how the Japanese themselves would react to that.
I'll talk about this more later because it's another huge topic. For now, just to showcase the game. Since it's a samurai game, you get to do basically all shtick that, for example, Gemon in Lupin the Third actually does. Basically all the cool tricks with the katana.
Okay, Teo, to
In this
answer your
case,
question...
counter-attacking.
Mm-hmm.
They're
With a
in,
bottom
they're,
front.
they're in Bellevue, Washington, the United States. They're American.
Alright then, American.
Anyway, yeah, to answer your question, Sucker Punch Productions are an American company.
Alright then.
You know what's funny? It's like I said earlier.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's like I said earlier, this looks like a more Japanese take on Breath of the Wild, only this one's actually made by Americans, whereas Breath of the Wild is made by Japanese.
The combat seems to be your standard Arkham type of beat 'em up. So simple enough to learn, a bit difficult to master.
It feels right because samurai fights, if you've seen these
Very
movies,
slow, methodical, and precise.
so it
which
makes sense to go this route for the sake of being
Yeah.
faithful to that aesthetic.
What makes it all through is the aesthetic in anything.
Not to
Both
mention,
the
this
visuals,
game looks freaking gorgeous. Like,
Oh, and here's a base. I think it's a friend of our protagonist. Actually, I don't
old
even know if
friend
we
of
know the
his.
name of these people.
And apparently it's a woman. I didn't know them. Oh, I'm guessing...
Basically, well, I think she counts as more like a huntress or a maiden. Basically, remember, Jova, similar to the monks figure, maidens kind of had the same duties, running around Japan and exorcising spirits. So I think she's fulfilling that role. Have you seen Inuyasha, Jova?
Yes.
I think she's affiliating the same role of the first fiancé of Inuyasha. I forgot her name.
What's her name? Shingo? Or is that
Yeah,
someone else?
Shingo, I think.
If it's a Shigo for a second.
So we're after a monster of sorts, but what could it be?
Also, I think I heard Nolan North as one of the mooks.
not just that, but I like even the voice acting sounds very much like an old dub of these movies. So you can tell that's exactly the kind of.
By the way, they do not showcase here, but I like a statement about this game. I want my climatic fight on a rooftop surrounded by flames on a flaming
Yes.
building because
Yes.
that's such a staple, and I do not want to miss on that in this game.
Alright, so a bit of notes on my first impressions. Okay, maybe it must have been because this is where the stream was really starting to piss us off, but I'll admit, my first impressions of this game weren't too great, but maybe that's because of all the stress and stuff that was making it horrible. Because, like, maybe now that I'm actually getting to focus more on the game, I'll admit, it looks a lot better than my first impressions gave me to believe.
Also, take a note and how this visualized and what is about our protagonist about to do here. This mechanic is pretty identical to what happens in Batman Arkham Knight. It's a basically a stealth triple takedown for the sake of cleaning a single room with ease.
Yep.
Fine by me.
Sure, fine with me as well. And there you go, this is the counts in as an environmental kill. I do believe that there is some scripting into this particular sequence, but this is where I don't know more where the line stands. Anyway, free to the
Sucker
hostage.
Punch goes full weeboo.
Yes. I actually did made. There was an image in theme like with Wolverine, whatever.
And turns out she betrays him.
Betrayal. basically apparently this is right before the Mongolian invasion, and apparently Japanese people were kind of divided in if to actually fight it or just surrender. Because remember, back in the day, the Mongolians were like a gigantic swarm of locusts. Wherever they went, they destroyed, pillaged, and killed everything. So you can imagine Japanese were not exactly that happy to fight them.
And yet somehow they won.
But anyway, I know this may also be a set piece or anything. This is probably just a simple boss fight in the actual game. But this is where the game kind of basically drops the pants on the floor and shows its big testicles to you.
Yeah.
Like a giant tanuki.
By the way, this could so make for a great two-player battle mode by the looks of how this battle goes.
Yeah, this can be a potential interesting... Well, to be fair, I think Niho did better the SCWRM combat because it has a fuck ton of things like stances, different equipment, the way approach things, and stuff like that.
I like some of the extra details, like, the characters actually stumble around when they misstep.
Not just that, look at the leaves. Notice the leaves on the floor. They move realistically.
Fucking leaves.
The leaves are going to be... Oh my god, guys. So leaves are going to be the next technical innovation after how great we can animate water.
Yes,
I can see it now. You know when video game websites have reviews and they have pros and cons next to their final score?
It's like Skyrim, but with leaves.
The big pro will be leaves in capital letters.
This is exactly why I'm completely supportive of the idea of just allowing developers to not stay close to one franchise and just do whatever they feel like doing, because that's where creativity like this comes from.
Oh yeah, Sucker Punch have always been about, doing different things.
I know what I mean.
In general, remember, I do generally, I generally do believe that in the PS3 era, Sony was a bit more forceful on a couple of its studios, but that's another topic for another day.
So yeah, okay. I'll admit, having a relook at it, my impressions now are a lot better.
It's kind of similar. It's kind of you see, Joe. Again, by all means, too. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
Hold on, guys. Okay, and here comes one of the lower points here.
Ugh.
Dreams again.
The sad part is that, if you allow me, the sad part is that I'm so looking forward, because I love the first two Little Big Planet games, not the third one, because the third one wasn't even made by Media Molecule, it was made by a different developer.
Sumo people.
Yeah, I don't like it's like because creativity, literally putting the creativity on charge of the player. That's Media Molecule's trademark of as a studio.
Oh, there you go, folks. Remember our Quantum Break run?
Yes.
This is now what Remedy is doing, basically.
And you know what's weird, though?
And this is a multi-platform game instead of being an Xbox exclusive.
Yeah, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Well, first of all, surprised that this didn't show up at the Microsoft conference.
Well, maybe Remedy left Microsoft after Quantum Break. I can't imagine why.
I can't imagine why. Does it have to do with Microsoft destroying Quantum Break?
Basically, I'm a bit intrigued kind of by this title, because even though it's not apparent immediately, this seems to be more of a horror game than anything.
I will admit, though,
it's presented to you as a
looks more like a psychological thriller, more like.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. The aggressiveness and the surreal of the scenarios that it's presented to you makes me think it's gonna be kind of like a David Lynch movie.
I'm gonna say this right now. This looks like Quantum Break in a lot of ways. Like even the visual effects.
Yeah, you can tell.
Instead of time.
The lighting, the color palette.
You can tell it's running on the Northern Lights engine. The Northern Lights engine was the engine that was made for Quantum Break, and you can tell it's still.
Actually see the blur.
Yeah, you can tell it's using the exact same engine. You know?
So wait. Basically, you're saying it runs on the Aurora Borealis engine because you said Northern Lights.
Okay.
At this time of year, this time of day, in this part of the conference.
Okay, I'm gonna call it here right now. This is going to be Quantum Break Good Edition. Just replace time travel powers with psychosis.
Kind of feels
like it. Yeah, it kind of feels like it. I agree. But yeah, like I was saying, like it's one of those things. Like I really
control.
Media Molecule, which is a British developer, for those who don't know, their primary trademark as a studio is that they make games where the creativity is put on the player's hands. Well, that's why Little Big Planet allow you to build
505 games. A lot of the published Terraria.
And very Italian, in case you don't know.
Yeah, like that's why.
Boy.
This
okay,
teaser.
Folks. Now
I did not guess this game in the slightest, because I honestly thought, this is our VR game because we're controlling a mouse and go around. But what did I notice? I didn't notice first PlayStation right there, a PlayStation 1.
How cute.
I wonder if the Xbox and PC version will have something different there.
Probably a different console in there.
Unless it's for this trailer only, like it was made specifically for the Sony conference, and this part is not in the game.
And here's another thing.
What's happening? It's like someone is struggling, but is it the business of a mouse? Do we need to know what is going on?
Ow. I don't know.
We should have a look anyway.
Where is the mouse, I wonder? Wait, oh no, there's two people struggling. Big time.
And the mouse is learning the Prometheus school of running away from things.
But yeah, you know, how about that though?
That's a dead rat.
That's a very dead mouse.
So it turns out, guys, surprise, surprise, we were actually looking from the first-person view of a mouse. What game are we actually in? We're in a police station with zombies.
It is finally time, after all these years of waiting and nothing to show. Finally, Capcom decided to present to you Resident Evil 2
Remake.
Because our boy Leon is there. Because you wonder, this is his first. This is actually his first day of duty as a policeman of Raccoon City. Worst day of the world.
That's an interesting first day.
Sure.
That's actually interesting, sure, because due to how its nature, the first Resident Evil Resident Evil 2 was very cheesy, more like a traditional campy horror. Here, for this remake, they decide to tone and make it more serious and grimdark.
I do hope that they keep some. I do hope that they keep some of the humorous moments, but yeah, I appreciate also the uptake.
By the way, when it comes to the gameplay, it doesn't use anymore the fixed camera. Instead, it uses the over-the-shoulder behind camera, like in Resident Evil 4, which makes sense. That's how most of newer generations actually know Leon for. So it makes
rest
sense.
in peace. Yes, that means rest in peace, tank controls.
Yeah. One thing though about that first-person joke earlier.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure whether that was meant.
Oh God, Mr. X.
Or if it was meant to take out, or if it was meant to be a piss take on Resident 7. I mean, if that was the case,
maybe just a reference.
Okay.
People liked Resident 7.
Allow me to put it like this, Dribs. It was a fake out. Like, people were thinking, oh, it's going to be first-person view, but then it turns out you were just looking from the view of a mouse, and then it turns out Resident Evil
2.
And yes, just like in the tradition of a lot of games from Capcom, you have the title being told to you in this very deep voice.
Oh boy. So, okay.
Was it like that in 7?
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So yeah,
also happening in the Devil May Cry games, but go ahead, Jova.
So yeah, we got not only Devil May Cry 5, but also Resident Evil 2 Remake, two things we've been waiting forever for from Capcom.
I'm actually agreeing with you, Jova, in saying that where was this passion and dedication for Marvel Infinite?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Just to finish.
Go ahead, sorry, Pedro.
Just to finish my earlier thought. Well, again, keep in mind, Jova, like, and by all means, too, feel free to correct me.
Go ahead. This trailer is interesting. No, I'm sorry, this trailer is not very interesting anyway.
Yeah, this was
I don't know, I love Rick and Morty, so I'm totally up for it.
Let me put it like this, though. Just because you tell me, oh, it's the creator of this or that, if I see a game and it does not look interesting or looks lackluster, I'm like, okay, so the guy's making crap or something. Like, well, anyone's capable of good or bad. It's like, I mean, I guess, again, this is a recurring problem with some of the games here. Like, well, okay, newer stuff like Resident Evil 2 Remake, I get that we don't see much of that. But games like this, though, it seem a bit farther along. I think, like, well, I have no idea what this is, and that's not always a good thing, per se. It just used to be like, oh, random the game, until I know more about it. I can only judge it as I see it.
Sure. Well, regardless,
anyway, you were saying something about something else?
It's like one of the primary reasons, and by all means, Theo, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe. But the main reason why the new God of War was like a departure in terms of gameplay and other stuff was because apparently, from what I can tell, like the traditional God of War formula was starting to get a bit stale.
Oh yes,
No.
sorry about this.
But I'll mention it later.
Oh.
Yes, it's Kingdom Hearts and it's the return of Port Royale.
Yay!
And some
now-
proper pirate costumes.
And now, not only we keep the tradition of having the models super realistic now, it's very weird in this.
so realistic that I kid you
we
not,
actually have
folks.
pirate costumes. There you go.
And not only that, look at that.
Yeah,
render
people actually
effect,
made comparison. Yeah, just like I predicted, in case this World War return, we're following the story of the second and third movies, I guess, or maybe just the third one. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, let's be quite honest, Pirates of the Caribbean 2 is just the lead up into Pirates of the Caribbean 3.
Yeah,
so...
that's but when it comes to those movies, I tend to think of them only as one. And yes, naval combat. That's
So between
actually
this,
amazing.
between this and Skull and Bones, Sea of Thieves is getting trounced twice next year. Like,
Yeah,
look at that
basically.
ship gameplay. Like, folks, I have been cynical at times.
also
I've had
they
my
use this as an
doubts.
excuse to bring back
Oh
the
my
monkey
God!
artless
Oh my God!
from
Wait.
Tarzan World.
Holy cow! Underwater swimming that's not Atlantica. That looks more fluid and polished and
you.
wondrous. And oh my God, this is all in Port Royal. Like, okay,
I get why the realistic tone might look a bit jarring, but I think everything looks fantastic. I
let
love
me
it.
put it like this.
Well, it's a live-action Disney film.
Oh wait, hold on. Here we go.
Hi, Luxord. Voice like I'm Robbie Catkin. Yeah, big question. Did we actually got Johnny Depp back for
I doubt
or
it.
not?
Hold on. They might have actually, but we don't know yet.
If it is, it sounded like it's a damn good one because he sounds pretty much exactly on point.
So yeah, now we
Also,
get a
yay,
nice
the other
montage.
Titans are here as well, finally. About time.
Toy Story, of course.
I mean, you can say what you want about the story direction, but the game itself looks insanely fun to play.
Oh, and look at that, Elsa
Rapunzel.
maybe. Oh yeah,
Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure.
Monsters Incorporated, and now they're somehow using the screams as part of Xehanort's evil plan.
Well, remember, Drova, they're used as a form of energy, so it's perfect.
And now
Also,
Arsene is back.
Arsene.
But oh, apparently Elsa may be one of the new lights of Seven Hearts because we can make
Because
that.
marketing promotion. We cannot use any more Alice.
Honestly, I never understood why Alice was even considered a princess. in
Yeah,
the
I'm
first
gonna
place,
have
but
to
I
agree with
see.
Joe on that one.
She's not actually a princess in any way.
Also,
Well,
Hailey.
Ariel was more of a princess than Alice.
Yeah, unfortunately, Joe, but she's a
Oh, hi,
mermaid, so she
Kyrie.
can't walk. So I guess, yeah.
Just
Also, it's
Matt's
about
a-
for a final twist.
hey, you come here
I'm
often?
still alive. How? I don't
Also,
know.
people are so gonna ship those two based on that ending scene.
Oh yeah.
Because of course.
But yeah, okay. And yes, like I called it a delay. But yeah, let me talk about this trailer. This trailer convinced me. Also, new PS4 Pro Limited Edition.
And I think you can get
Oh,
basically a
right.
special edition that includes all the previous
The
titles, like
basically the entire
1.5,
series.
2.5, and 2.8 collection.
Yeah.
But
and
not
I realize
just
the only
that.
drawback with this is that I won't have a physical
You get
copy.
it with Kingdom Hearts 3, all bundled in one. Only on
And still
PS4.
now for the Xbox One.
Ouch.
Which it would have been,
Because- oh, because freeze
it would have been the perfect thing to have on the Xbox One for initiating, but whatever.
That particular bundle as well is $100.
Dreams.
Yes, the
dreams.
squeaky voices.
But yeah, okay. To sum
Get
up my
off
thoughts about
the
that Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer. Oh no, here we go.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
baby's
Yes.
butt!
Ah,
And the baby gives a
Kojima,
thumbs
I like
up.
you. Kojima, don't push it. Don't show your rear like that.
I told you before, this is his fever dream.
Okay, I had to watch this trailer 2 times at least after the conference, and I may get something. Although I even understand something combined with the previous information that I knew about the game, but I'm still a lot in the dark.
That's the whole.
Yeah.
That's the whole point too. You can tell
Like,
Kojima wants
For
us to keep
example, here's the thing
speculating.
that they don't tell you in this trailer, but I know because I observed all the clues and everything. Basically, Ridu's character is part of a team that collects corpses around.
There's actually an official
the-
description on the PlayStation version of this. Let me just quickly get it.
Yeah. But the reason why now it's connected to the mystical elements of this, I don't know.
Yeah, the
Also,
only
as per
thing that,
tradition, we're getting a licensed song.
right,
Well,
the only
that's
thing that
common
kind
for.
of The only thing that kind of bugged me about their showcase was how I don't think they showed enough of the actual gameplay for us to get a semblance of what is Zemico. We do see some stuff.
It looks very similar to Metal Gear Solid 5 in how your character moves
Which is
and
fine by
what
me.
you carry around. Yeah. No, what I mean is
I love
that
that
Kojima is keeping it relatively simple for the sake of just putting his new idea in an environment that it's safe to use.
Which is
surprisingly
fine.
enough, he managed to recreate something as similar as the Fox engine without using the Fox engine.
Well, that's just Kojima for you.
Also climbing.
But
I'll be honest though, there's I've always been kind of worried that there's I was always worried, and I think this, and in my opinion, this trailer kind of accentuated those worries a little bit. That they might that they're relying a bit too much on the Lawrence Kojima weird factor. Because I mean, this game's been out. This game. How long have we known about it? How long have we known about this game? Like
a couple of years, maybe more.
A couple of years.
2 years at least.
Yeah, and all we know is that Norman Reedus is in it. He has there's a weird.
Mike Mickelson is in it.
Yeah, it's got a lot of good actors, but there's also a fetus. There's a fetus.
There's time travel involved.
Babies somehow grow from inside men.
Actually, no. Anyway, let me explain. The boxes, I think it functions as resource collecting. As why, for example, Redus had the 2 drones around.
And there's going to be stealth.
In this case, for example, lots of the loot, basically, because of actually not managing to.
Oh, here we go.
Also, charming.
Let me read this. Here's the actual description on the official PlayStation channel of this particular trailer. Besieged by death's tide at every turn, Sam Bridges, that's Norman Reedus' character, must brave a world utterly transformed by the Death Stranding. Apparently Death Stranding is some kind of virus or disease. Carrying the stranded remnants of the future in his hands, Sam embarks on a journey to reunite the shattered world one step at a time. So basically, it's a guy trying his best to basically rebuild the world because of.
It's time for those creatures to show up again.
They have human print hands, for the record.
Yeah.
Calling in now, mutated
we
humans.
will actually know what these things are in a second. In I think one of the last parts of the trailer.
Yeah.
But I don't know why they walk like that. Why they leave these like that? No, it's not a good idea.
And here we are, the first woman, so they're not dead.
And she has a spike armor. Lever armor.
In a biker game?
I don't know. And apparently those creatures like the loot in some cases.
Yep. And we've already seen in the previous trailer, they're Mayan killers.
And she also said, I think, if they touch you, the time, basically you destabilize in time, and that's why you age rapidly, like that guy in the previous teaser actually did like that in the December teaser. Hello? Dude, are you spacing out? Oh yeah, this is not really visible, but there are the 5 things in the sky right now. They're just very mimetized.
Yeah.
And then disappear. But I wouldn't mind if you didn't notice because they were actually camouflaged like that.
Yeah.
Give me your hand in.
Also, that's a very unpractical umbrella.
Yoshi Shinkawa was feeling very quirky too.
Oh, let me guess. He used to have a family, but they're dead.
My family.
Actually, apparently not, because apparently Lindsay Wagner is apparently playing the wife of. From what I can tell.
Then why is he looking at a picture?
If I recall, if I recall, Jova is there's a lot of time travel shenanigans into this.
Wait, so
I
this
think
is apparently in the
this is
past.
where things start to get interesting for me, because this showcases another big meat and potato of the game. I think that I always thought Kojima had potential to do it ever since the first Metal Gear Solid, and also Metal Gear Solid 3.
One thing that
horror.
One thing that interested me is that it was the production of this game, because Kojima opened up a production studio in Amsterdam to help with this game. I don't know why Amsterdam. I thought he wanted to open another one in Japan for convenience, but
because Amsterdam needs some love.
just like I thought, apparently these fetuses are used as a form of energy source, and these aliments
like
these
I guess,
mechanisms
that's
that
used-
function as, I guess, a torchlight, but also lets you see what
And
these
of
creatures
course-
shadow. And this is
Yeah.
fucked up.
And this, not just that, and again, and going and gameplay wise, this is Hideo could. Oh, and yeah, and apparently the baby, yeah,
Is conscient.
like
There you go. It's stealth aura. You need to avoid
Yeah.
them and
That
stay away
probably
from
really
them.
hurts the baby.
being a Hideo Kojima game, obviously subtlety is the name of the game. Try to avoid combat at all costs.
So how much do you want to bet?
They
that
showed
whatever
that
the-
you had a gun in one of the previous shots. Remember when he dismantles
Yeah,
one of the
probably gonna be
boxes
like
of the gun
MGS5, where you can choose
Yeah.
to either be stealthy or try a more,
I still don't know how putting the hand of your mouth actually helps you stay away from the creatures, but I guess we'll have
My guess is.
And Gorman fucked up.
Yeah.
My guess
Oh
is.
yeah, and
this,
they
like,
apparently drag you down to hell or
It's
something.
it's the same. It's the same thing that happened in one of the scientists in the previous trailer. I remember that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
He was shot
um,
by the colleague before he could get dragged. Go ahead, Java. Sorry.
My guess is this, like, well, because it's the Death Stranding, my guess is like it goes after any little bit of life that it can find to snuff it out. Hence
Yeah.
the term Death Stranding.
You,
Jump scare.
Kojima. I know you're quirky, but this is necessary.
Okay, so that lady just randomly ate a maggot.
Oh, well, that's just one good for me. And
And
Lindsay Wagner, for those who don't know, she's Bionic Woman.
yay!
So yeah, she's
Of all
68.
people.
She's 68 right now. By the way, she's never done a video game, but Kojima managed to convince her to come work on this one. And I don't know if you guys saw the interview with her, Kojima, and Geoff Keighley, but after
I've
but
seen snippets of it, but not the whole thing.
basically she literally said, like, after Kojima pitching the whole thing to her, she literally said, well, if I'm going to do a game, might as well start with the best. She literally
We still don't know, sadly, a release date, but it's showcased by its price. And now something that actually surprised me, because similar to Project, I honestly didn't saw this coming. I thought it would have been, it's a bit very early to reveal early on, even though I knew it would have come sooner or later. Basically, since it was a huge success on the PS4 before being now supported to PC, Koei Tecmo Games and Team Ninja decide to continue Neo with a sequel.
Neo 2.
AKA Asian Dark Souls.
Not just that, remember, Pedro, the original script for the first Neo was actually based on a scrapped movie that Akira Kurosawa wanted to make but couldn't manage to realize. Let's just say, though, that I honestly do believe that Koei Tecmo Games actually took some liberties. But still, very good to know that also Neo is continuing.
Neo.
If only we could get a new Ninja Gaiden as well. Well,
Maybe.
anyway,
Defied
that
death.
defies you.
In Soviet Russia, death defies you.
Ho ho ho. Another
games.
interval later.
Great.
Again.
I mean,
these-
they only last like 5 seconds each.
The problem was how cringe-inducing they were, and to the point where here there was no reason.
Well,
like,
these later ones, not so much. It's
Oh,
like
hold on.
mostly at the beginning.
Here we go.
okay,
it's
this
Spider-Man
is to
time,
me
and
the
not
favorite
to
of the
any
deep
place.
dives.
The Raft. If you don't know, it's a maximum security prison, but similar to Arkham Asylum in the DC universe, it gets breached really easily all the time. And we need to. And this time, Electro is there. At least only him.
Now, apparently, this Asian woman is going to be Spidey's partner of sorts for this game. I forget what her name is.
I don't know who voices Electro. I haven't paid enough attention to the voice acting
Did
for
Also,
these
the
new
woman's name-
characters.
Are there any
Also-
actors returning for their roles for this particular game, or
No, you're
No.
elementary
None
election
that I'm
first for
afraid.
Spider-Man.
All of this,
know what's funny?
this
It's like, well-
particular Spider-Man Shiro isn't much older Spider-Man. He's 23 by this point.
No, I know, but like any
Wait.
previous actors, but like all of
No,
these characters
from what
have had several different
from-
actors. So
From what I get, no, it's an all complete new cast.
Okay.
Oh,
Also,
that
this
shows
costume
you
for
always
Electro
were
is
corny.
weird.
Yeah, I'll
There we
admit,
go, see which-
I'm not.
Good.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, similar to the first Arkham game. Well, I don't know if it's gonna be the starting level, but probably not. But you do get to fight with the inmates. And again, it's similar to the Arkham style combat, but it's much more agile and varied to reflect Spider-Man's agility powers.
I recall what Red Halsey, aka Marco, said our first time we watched this. Like, well, this is the trailer that finally convinced him that he wants this game. Because, like, well, beforehand, he had second thoughts. And I can see what he means. Like, well, I was already interested in this game.
I'm just like you, Joe. I was convinced from the very first trailer.
And you know, that's the thing. It's like, well, like with Kingdom Hearts 3, this trilogy convinced me that I am definitely getting this game. Because, again, with Kingdom Hearts 3, that showed me about a variety more that I'll go into with our final thoughts. Let's just say right here, right now, this one goes above and beyond, because not only is Electro there, we've also got Rhino.
It's Rhino, and in a costume that doesn't suck.
It looks like his it looks like a more practical and smaller, obviously smaller version of the little Rhino costume that we saw at the end of ASM2.
Scorpion is here. Although I'm not too keen on the helmet, the rest of the costume seems to be fine.
So that's 1, 2, 3 Spidey villains. We just need 3 more.
And not just any of the villains. Key members of the Sinister Six.
Well, depends on which edition of the Sinister Six you're talking about.
True, but well, at some point, almost all Spider-Man villains kind of rotate. It's like the Avengers, Joe. It's like there's a revolving door. Everyone enter and exits like they want.
Do we know if Mary Jane or any of his love interests are in this game?
We know Mary Jane is in this. Where it was like she was, I think, in one of the sections where you play as Peter Parker in like the civilian. As the civilian.
Is this adult Peter Parker or is this?
Yes. Remember, just like Pedro said, similar to Spider-Man Homecoming, we skipped basically the origin story.
So maybe this is one where they're married, since we have had those occasionally. Despite one more day. I mean, hey, to be fair, Spider-Man: Edge of Time came out after One More Day, and Pete and Mary Jane were still married in that, despite what the comics were doing. Also, Electro, you're doing all the electricity on an island surrounded by water, you moron.
Yeah, you're surrounded by your own weakness.
That's like if Sandman tried doing it out here.
Yeah, which thankfully is not here.
Or if Sandman tried to
snap.
What if Spider-Man?
It's Vulture.
What if Sandman tried to take over the UK? He'd be dead in like 5 minutes.
Surprised about the mask of Vulture.
I guess it makes sense. You don't want to swallow those bugs at that kind of velocity.
True.
Also, I love how the woman's name is Yuri. So Yuri is working with Yuri Lowenthal.
No, guys, I got it. Maybe the Shocker was supposed to be in this game, but the Vulture accidentally killed him, thinking it was just the anti-gravity gun.
Again.
Yes, again. He saw a mechanic fixing something and just randomly threw the helmet to him and said, "Okay, you're the Shocker now."
Also, between Electro and Vulture, these guys certainly seem to have the bald looks going down.
Well, maybe that is Shocker, I don't know.
Maybe it's like in the Arkham games and you get some submissions with minor villains. Like, I'm expecting at least one of the symbionts to show up in some form of capacity. You cannot have a Spider-Man game without it.
I have to wonder, though, if this is going to be, like, the main plot of the game, or if this is, like, just a section of the game, because, like...
Probably because of what we're about to get revealed on.
True, yeah.
Because basically, this was not just a coincidence that all these villains were in place. Apparently, the Sinister Six have a plan, and that plan is just to take down Spider-Man their own way.
Yeah, the
similar to that scene in Spider-Man Reign, to be honest.
Hold on, let's see.
Of all things to reference.
We have 4 villains here, but we need 2 more.
Well, we knew one already from one of the first trailers, Mr. Negative.
So it turns out this guy will be part of the main storyline as opposed to just being, in chunks.
We know that Kingpin is mentioned. We don't know if he's going to be confronted directly, but probably is.
So here's the big tease: 5 villains, but not 6.
Oh, Jova, I honestly do believe the 6th one shows up, but just not shown.
Unfortunately, yes. Jova, we have to wait. We have to call the slot the Feared 5.
That's not a bad name. Yes. The Fearsome 5.
Yeah.
Ooh.
We
Or Fast 5.
oh, that's gonna hurt.
Wow, just to emphasize, they're kicking him while he's down.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
It's like a wrestling
And,
assault.
At the edge of a precipice, as Spider-Man turns to look for hope, what does he find? But of course, light. But since the other villains are not facing the slightest, I pretty much know that it's a Green Goblin. Come on, guys, it's pretty obvious.
So Green
It's gonna be the
Goblin's
Green
gonna be
Goblin.
number 6.
Surprisingly enough, I was expecting Dr. Octopus to be one of them.
Although,
but
who knows?
Who knows?
Although, who knows, Tio? Maybe it'll just be Venom shining a flashlight in his face.
That would be amazingly interesting.
It would be.
But
a great
anyway,
combo.
and I think with that, that was pretty much it.
Not quite, because they had something else to talk about afterwards.
Sure, but I think they take some minor time, so I might as well use this to, I guess, to have starting our recaps. Well, the final thoughts, more like.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Me, Pedro, and Jova kind of mentioned it briefly already. So, Shiro, you wanna go first?
Sure.
Hi, Dreams. You're not funny.
Yep. Well, it's gone now anyway, I think. But yeah, this was not what I was expecting from this conference at all. I knew what they were going to show, but I expected a little more. Plus, it was a little unorganized. I mean, it could have been worse, but you know, they've done better, like a lot better. As for what they showed, I'm looking forward to most of this. Kingdom Hearts being the most obvious thing. Death Stranding as well, since that's definitely interesting.
And that's right, folks. As was mentioned in the video, they have some more Spider-Man footage coming up. But we still have to intermission for that.
Well, that means it's a good time for us to keep
Shuri.
talking
Keep
for a
going.
minute.
Go on.
Yep, and also The Last of Us, and I already enjoyed the first game, so I'm looking forward to that. We'll probably
What do you think
hear a
of
lot.
Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah, man agrees.
Yeah.
What do you think of Ghost of
please,
Tsushima?
Sorry, you were saying, Pedro?
I was asking, what do you think of Ghost of Tsushima?
Not really for me, really.
Alright then.
Yeah.
Resident Evil would be, though, since, you know,
Horror.
the earlier games are one of the few that there aren't many good horror games. In fact, lately I think the better things that could be considered horror in games and other media is the stuff that's not intended to be horrifying.
Oh, sure, I think you like Resident Evil 3 for horrors.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, definitely. But also remember, Shiro, this one is putting up the ante with the horror. So I don't know. We'll see.
As I said, the earlier Resident Evil games were, considered good horror games. So that's
Sure.
But I'm talking in a general sense in this day and age.
Sure.
There aren't very many.
Sorry.
So, shall I go next?
With this was I really like what they showed at the conference, but the conference itself, let's just say it's a good thing that I like Sony.
Yeah.
Because if they weren't already in my good books, then I'd be a bit more annoyed. But I'd still say Ubisoft is the best conference of this E3. There we go.
All right then.
Go ahead.
Okay. In terms of the content that they showed, I think it was good. Each game, they already told us in advance what games are going to be shown, and that allowed them to show more of the game than they normally, much more of the game than they normally would.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of content, it was fine. Presentation though was rather iffy. I think having it in 2 rooms wasn't the best idea.
Yeah.
Because you meant you had to move them to another room, and it was really cloggy, and
Oh, there you go. Hold on.
you had to pad the game out.
Hold on.
Oh, that's right. We
Okay.
also got this
Japan
announced.
Studio and From Software. Could this be Bloodborne 2?
Yeah,
And
this
it starts kind of like it. It's a parallel of a fairy tale, basically.
was weird. Like, okay, you waited till after the tail end of your E3 conference to announce this. Okay.
Yeah, he seriously looks like a pretty Disney princess.
And so we cut to
I think it's a Victorian London. It reminds me a lot of Rule of Rose. Has any of you played it?
no. Although
It
this
should.
looks a bit-
It's a bit fucked up and caused a lot of controversy back in the day.
Yeah. Going off of the chat, a lot of people were expecting this to be Bloodborne 2.
Which wouldn't make sense. There's a lot of aesthetic that's similar, although a bit of an evolution to it. Again, Victorian, stuff like that. The clock tower was similar to the one of the DLC. Even the character models, although they seem to be doing too much stuff for a traditional Souls-like game.
Mm-hmm. Very atmospheric trailer they have going. And then we go to color.
Because a rose regains her natural beauty, I guess. Oh, that's not even a rose, it's a tulip, I think? No, not a
And
herbal.
it is...
And it's their scene.
A new
That's
IP.
Their scene, I think it's French. And it's VR.
Yeah! So, again...
Waste
oh,
from software and Japan Studio for a VR minor title.
and this goes into how weirdly constructed the C3 is. Like, why not just announce this during the conference? Why all of a sudden have this intermission again, but then just drop VR title?
Again, not just that, but let me connect back to what I was briefly mentioned before. Again, this trend of recent of Sony, of almost practically dissing Japan Studio and and practically relegating only the last being major thing we know that they made on their own was fucking Knack 2, baby. But other than that, it was mostly collaboration. Like the last real, original, good game that they made that I can think about was Puppeteer on the PS3. Because after that, it was mostly collaborations and Knack duology. And basically, it's not like PlayStation 4 is depriving itself of Japanese-made games, but they're almost all third parties. Sony is not having trust anymore in his first party, Japan, to do either new IPs or continuation of solid continuation of previous franchises. It's relying almost entirely on its Western studio. Not that they're doing a bad job at it. Instead, they're doing a really great job. Of
Well,
filling in the
technically,
gaps and
Kojima
everything.
Productions is a Japanese developer, I guess. So.
Not
No,
really,
I think we
Pedro.
have a studio in Washington. I forgot.
Kojima Productions is pretty much a Western studio run by Kojima because, well, let's just say Kojima is more
I guess it's
favorable
kind
with
of
how
like
Western
Takashi
companies run it.
Iizuka with Sega of America. I guess.
Oh,
it's a
here's the
better
Spider-Man
comparison.
footage, though.
Yep.
Yeah, so we
It
got
looks
some more
great.
Spider-Man footage.
Shall I finish up my final thoughts?
I'm being extremely quick, Dweebs, don't worry. Basically, so that's what worries me. This conviction of Sony that they can rely only on their Western stuff for most of the game. It's paying off so far, but I don't know how much the momentum can still go.
I think to
That's
me
what
that
worries
tells...
me. And again,
Yeah.
I love what is going on right now. Even in Insomniac's new Spider-Man, it looks amazing as fuck. It's the new reborn of superhero video games, especially from Marvel, because it was a time where our video games sucked big time. But I honestly, selfishly also want this and Japan Studio giving also its big contribution and helping in the PlayStation family, basically. But that's just me. Maybe the future will be for the better. Continue, Dweebs.
So yeah, overall, not good presentation, but good content. That's what I would say. Okay, you do next.
But yeah, as well, you want to do quick. Okay.
Again,
Oh, open world gameplay.
Well,
Sorry,
yeah,
just
it makes sense. It's in New York.
again, it's Square Enix 2015 all over again. Like, I really love what they've shown. Not just the 4 big exclusives. I'm also interested in Twin Mirror and Control because they look kind of interesting. So I really like the content that was shown, and so I'm really looking forward to that. They need to improve on the presentation, definitely. Like I said, this was not how they should have structured shit. But I always prioritize the actual content itself, and that's so to me this was still a really good conference, just because it's one of those things. Like, let me put it like this, for example. A few years from now, not everybody, people aren't really going to be talking about the way this conference was structured, but they're still going to be talking about how great these games are going to be. So to me, this is the most important part. Like, they got where.
Hold on, Joe, but I didn't finish.
So to
I was
me,
just saying.
well, Jova, are people still talking about the 2015 Square Enix conference?
Yes, they are.
Not that I've heard.
People were. Yeah, a lot of people do actually. I mean, people still remember E3s when they're, a
Like,
bit
for example,
gathered
the
presentation.
Nintendo conference where they used the Wii Music or the Konami
Well, that one
conference.
was like legendary. So
Sure.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing.
Or
That's like, well,
Microsoft 2013, for example. So
and people still quote about how Square Enix
presentation
in 2015 had
presentation
trivia.
can be influenced how you're gonna be remembered.
Yeah, like heck, even with
In this
Nintendo
case,
E3.
basically, but I also agree with you, Peter, in a sense. But in this case, the game presented were good enough for people to mitigate this effect and probably not remembering too much on the presentation, more the games themselves.
for me, like the most important thing is the games. It's always been that, and these are the things that are going to stick most. And that's why this is still a really conference that really pleased me, because I'm so looking forward to literally every one of these 4 exclusives. Underline being exclusives.
I do believe Spider-Man may have just killed that move.
I'm sorry.
Don't worry, Jova. Madame Web teleported him safely into a pocket dimension.
Into a prison, hopefully.
Regardless, shit conference, fantastic content, and the content is what really matters to me at the end of the day. So fine by me. Like, again, just like I said with the 2015 Square Enix conference, show me great games, and that's all I really need. But please, Sony, go back to a traditional press conference next time, because that's what you're good at. Don't I get trying different things, but I think the whole trying different things is not for you. Just stick with what you know, and that's it.
All right,
then. This was a very frustrating E3 conference for me to judge because okay. Without spoiling, what the heck, I'll say right now, yeah. To me, the best conferences in terms of, showing content, keeping people reassured for the year in particular, Ubisoft and Nintendo did that best. Nintendo did saturate their stuff with Smash a bit, but they still made sure to show a lot of third-party support, new games coming out this year, and of course the new IPs here and there on the side. With this E3 at Sony, while we did see some new stuff, not much of that new stuff was really a Sony exclusive, and that's not the worst thing. What is telling to me, though, is out of the 4 big IPs, though, only one of those IPs, the Spider-Man one, is coming out this year. That is one thing I think Sony could have improved on was, actually showing people more exclusive stuff that's coming out this year, because, you just got this one thing to look forward to. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure the wait will be worth it, but I do feel that Sony could have paced stuff a bit better, and I think maybe they kind of fell into a similar trap that Square Enix is constantly falling into, maybe announcing stuff a bit too early ago. It's like I said, Last of Us 2, the gameplay there looks pretty keen and good, but I don't think they had enough to warrant having it be played by the banjo in that church conference.
Another thing, Jova, is that despite, aside from Spider-Man, despite presenting gameplay and showcasing new material, we still don't know even an approximation of the release date of the other 3 major Sony games.
Yeah.
It's obviously not going to be this year, and at best, I honestly do believe it's going to be at least from September to December of next year. And that's been general of some titles like Last of Us Part 2. I'm still thinking we're a long way before Death Stranding actually gets released. So there's also a bit that you want to focus on these 4 games, but as at the same time that we're going to be present at also next year's E3. There's that.
Yeah.
Finish off, Jova, then I'll have only one more thing to say, but go ahead.
Now, to their credit, they did warn us about this, but the way they warned us about it gave us a different inkling than what we actually got. Like, again, when they say they're only focusing on 4 things, we think, oh, so that means there'll be a lot more third-party stuff, or, oh, that means they're going to spend a lot of time focusing on each of these 4. Not so much the case, sadly, in either way, because, yeah, I mean, honestly, Microsoft's conference was better paced and had more third-party content. Well, don't get me wrong, they still had the exclusivity issue, but Microsoft did feel like it was about non-stop action for the better here, whereas with Sony saying, well, yeah, they did a lot of showing, but not that much explaining. Like, it was kind of the opposite extreme. Like, well, I'm not asking for them to explain everything to us, and I like that they did let us form some opinions on our own. But I do feel like, well, maybe they could have had some of the devs, like, explain a bit more, like, hey, this is what Last of Us 2 is about for, people who aren't following up constantly online. Like, if this is, like, your first time seeing some of these games, Spider-Man, you should be set on good enough because, well, it's Spider-Man. Ghost of Tsushima, I think, does a good enough intro in and of itself. Last of Us 2 and Death Stranding, though, I feel are not quite newcomer-friendly in terms of this being your first time viewing, like, and now, I'm sure that the Hideo Kojima game will turn out to be good. I do feel, though, if this were any other dev, we'd kind of be wondering why aren't they showing this more. And I'm calling it right now, that game's probably going to see a lot of delay stuff because Kojima really likes to get stuff as good as can be, and bless him for it. But content here is good, but the frustrating thing is, like, well, the very bad presentation, especially the first half, does kind of ruin some of the experience, and it does make sort of gathering your thoughts here a bit more of a jumbled mess. Like, and that's the thing, like, looking back at Square Enix 2015 Z3, while the content there was good, it also showed that they introduced some stuff a little to the point where we're still waiting for some of those things. And also, again, the pacing was way off to the point where people made memes out of it. Because if there's one thing that gets people to remember how bad a presentation went, it's memes. And let me tell you, those are big. And hi, Alpha Omega Sin.
What are you doing? Where have you been? I've not seen you around in a long time.
But yeah, my overall thoughts of the C3, it's, I'm gonna consider this one of the better E3s, but sadly, I'm gonna have to rate it below Nintendo, Ubisoft.
I agree with you, Jova, but I do believe at the same time that despite the terrible presentation at first, it's still a way better conference than last year. Because I do believe last conference was a victim of overhype. People thought there would have been too much, but this time instead we came prepared of expecting not too much on it.
Absolutely. And Sony did go out of their way to actually explain how this was going to go. The execution did not really work out well, but the fact that we were at least more better prepared did help things out, so this was definitely a better showcase than E3. However, though, Sony, don't get too cocky. You're releasing good stuff, but if you constantly do these bad presentations, that's going to eventually hurt you. So, like Pedro said, maybe consider going back to the traditional conference way, or heck, if you really want to go all the way out, then just do the direct.
Especially considering how the game experience in last December actually went, and Sony already has programmed a new one for this year's December, so we'll have to see if they improved with that or not.
Now, I'm not going to make it a habit to complain about what wasn't there, because if I made that complaint, I'd have to complain about Metroid Prime 4 not showing up it's at Nintendo's Direct, but,
Yes and no, Jova. That was what I wanted to finish off about mentioning here. I now agree with what Pedro said about third parties because, for example, Street Fighter it would have been a decision of Capcom, or Final Fantasy XI Remake about Square Enix, for example. But the Medieval remake, fans need to know more, even if it's just a small interview. Let the fans know what's going on, who's developing it. You have different studios, Sony. Okay, tell us who is responsible for doing this. Like, do you have outsourced it to a new one? We don't know anything. We don't know how it even looks like. Not even a teaser. We just got very stilted stock images in the teaser. It almost makes me think that that teaser wasn't, even ready, and they had to put it together in 5 minutes to give the fans something to justify the terrible game experience of December.
Oh yeah, agreed. I was about to digress. It's like,
this is your first party, so basically, Sony, show it to us soon enough.
See,
Yeah, go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
The difference between, Metroid Prime 4 and, Medieval not showing up is like, well, with Metroid Prime 4, Nintendo never said it's coming anytime soon. Medieval, the remake, gave a completely different inkling. Like, that was at the end of last year. And Sony
said more info soon. I'm expecting soon to be in a reasonable time frame. I'm not too eager, but I'd say at least between the 3 and the 6 month. We had the 6 month, and we know still nothing about it.
Yeah, and before anyone asks why I complain about Final Fantasy VII Remake not showing up, but not Metroid Prime 4, Final Fantasy VII Remake has been advertised for way longer.
Remember, Jova, it had a lot of trouble development. They need to fire the CyberConnect 2 people who worked on it and restart from scratch. Apparently, they changed so much in the design to make it more anime-esque, but we know still nothing about it.
Now, how much I can blame them, Square or Sony, I'm not entirely sure, but I will say this, though. People were expecting that to show up at either this or Square Enix's. It showed up in neither, wasn't even mentioned, so that is slightly worrying. But yeah, that aside, this was... Okay, the content was marvelous, but again, bad presentation will bring it down. So I'm going to give this conference a B. Normally I would have given it a C, but now that I had a better experience with the stream actually working properly, a B. Pretty much equal with Microsoft's. Like, Microsoft's was good, but it was hindered by the lack of its exclusive consoles. This one had exclusivity, but it was hindered by the bad presentation and lack of some content here or there, despite the content there being good. So, weird how they kind of cancel each other out, while Nintendo and Ubisoft are up on the A rank. And then there's Bethesda, Square Enix, and EA well below. Digital Devolver is in their own little world.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And PC gaming, it was just more like indie promotion, and the only major surprise was the Yakuza game. The Yakuza game is being important, which, by the way, they still have the Nuvo because Sega Europe, of course. But honestly, Jova, again, EA shouldn't even be considered at this point. They were really bottom tier garbage.
Yeah, from top to bottom, like almost every video, pretty much.
As far as I'm concerned, EA shouldn't even be part of the scale. They're automatically just, they're so bad that they don't even deserve to be on the fucking scale.
I hate to say it, you could not have picked a worse year to make that bet that you made with Vivay about EA being the best T3 this year. Like,
in hindsight, I should have chose Microsoft.
Anyway, shall we end this then? Cause
Yeah.
Sure.
Basically, as well, because we basically showcase what we know already. For example, right now, Dreams.
Oh yeah, we're talking about Dreams, which
But
is pretty much the end of this.
very quickly, my very final thoughts, because it's pretty much all of what you guys said. The presentation was detrimental, but I really like the games. Most of the games were shown. For example, Call of Duty or Destiny notwithstanding, but I mean the 4 main Sony titles. All of them interest me in different ways, one way or the other. So I will see what we are. But for the meantime, this is the end for us covering this.
Oh wait, I have one more thing to talk about. I almost forgot.
Sure, that's all right.
Kingdom Hearts 3's trailer here did get me not only reinterested in the game, but reignited my entire interest in the series. Why? This trailer not only brought back Pirates of the Caribbean, one of my favorite worlds. Not only did it show some ship gameplay, but that is part of the equation here.
Although, Jova, basically, this practically deconfirms the possibility, at least for this game, of a treasure planet. Press F to pay respects.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be plenty of mourning for that. But what this trailer did, that no other Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer has done for me before, shown that they're truly bringing back what made a lot of people like me originally interested in Kingdom Hearts. Like, the Disney worlds are a lot more involved. I mean, like, on a basic level.
There are actually more people, and at least more key people.
This
running around.
feels like an honest-to-God evolution as opposed to a side project. Well, it's obvious, but this is the first time I've truly felt it. And not only that, the gameplay styles, the variety. This looks to be a Kingdom Hearts game that manages to bring us variety without having to do something stupid like Atlantica and Kingdom Hearts 2.
Oh, jeez.
Like, we actually have swimming mechanics that won't be clunky like in Kingdom Hearts 1. Sorry, Atlantica, you kind of have a bit of the weaker points.
Also, this footage of Dreams is neat, but I think we digressed enough. Alright, Joe, close us off.
So yeah, that was Sony free. Tune in for when we do Digital Devolver. Look
Well,
at that.
not all of us,
Not
but
all of
basically, who will be present there?
It will
See you
be
for that.
me, Tio, Shiroi, and Red Helsey. And then eventually we'll maybe do a roundtable recap of this C3.
Sure,
See ya.
whatever. See you.
Right. See ya.
Yeah.
Ta-ta!